welcome back. Discussing the POS charges proposed hike or just hike. Well, we've heard, I think the last that we heard of this news is from the president of AMBAN, Mr. Victor Lodja, who's been on this show a couple of times, saying that the association only released the price guide for its members and did not fix prices, and has remained law-abiding over a decade of operation, protecting the rights and interests of mobile money and bank agents across the country. And we know that even at the MPC, the CBN governor, acting governor, beg your pardon, did mention this issue and said, well, they are like a third party. And we saw news that some major go-between would be sanctioned if this is implied. But let's look at another perspective now. Why AMBAN is talking about the rights of mobile money operators. We do have the Executive Vice Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, that's FCCPC, Mr. Babatunde Rukera, now to speak for the consumers' rights, obviously. That's what they stand for. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Mr. Rukera, good morning. Thank you for your time this morning.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting.
Great. So where are we now? We've seen Mr. Lodja, the president of AMBAN, saying, well, they have no fixed price. We've seen write-ups or statements from the federal government and other associations saying they have no right to increase their charges, but they're saying at least they're self-regulatory. We all know what's going on in the country at this time. Even a loaf of bread is not what it used to cost. So where are you, FCCPC, in holding the rights of the consumers? And of course, remembering that these people are also Nigerians as the operators, and they also have their rights to be protected also.
Thank you. Good question. I think where we are is that the system has worked. The position that the FCCPC has taken is not to fix price or regulate price. The law has provisions with respect to determining price if there is a situation where the government needs to get involved in regulating price. And that's not what is happening here. But primarily, the best price for anything is a price that is negotiated in a free market. And a free market means that consumers are competing to buy from a seller, and sellers are competing to sell to a consumer. And so anything that distorts that potentially makes the price of anything not the fairest possible price. When there's strong competition, promotes efficiency, innovation, quality, choices, and the fairest price. And any coming together, concerted effort of building consensus, whether it is directly, openly, by conspiracy, or even signaling by an association, or bilaterally, or by a group of competitors to determine a price, is cartel. It is price fixing. There's nothing wrong with an association coming together. There's nothing wrong with them periodically discussing what is best for the industry. There's nothing wrong with them discussing standards, how to improve standards, how to improve quality. But one of the things prohibited is a discussion about price between competitors. Globally, it is one of the strongest challenges to fair markets, and it's one of the offenses that global competition authorities take very strongly. And so when we get an announcement where an association says that they've determined what the prices of their services would be, that's obviously a matter of concern. And it was that concern that led us to immediately issue an advisory saying that that would be against the law. And we're careful in the sense that we understand the nature of that business. We understand it's a very important business. It's very important to the entire commercial value chain in Nigeria. It's very important for creating employment. And it's also an important small and medium scale enterprise space. And so what we did, understanding all of that, was to engage first by an advisory. However, it seemed that the response to the advisory was some level of insistence and adamance. And we had to escalate the regulatory action by saying, well, you know, advising, I mean, I believe, if I recollect, one of the operatives of the association specifically said, that's just on the pages of newspaper, and that we can say what we like, they would proceed with what they intend to do. And when you get that kind of insistence and resistance to a law as a regulator, you must find the right tools to manage that process. And so what we did was to escalate the regulatory process and issue a cease and desist order to the association and its members. And again, clearly reiterating that this is the law. You can't violate the law. And it's not something that precludes you from fixing your price. Let everybody fix the price of their services based on their own model. Some people, their business can succeed unless they have a 40% margin. Some people, their businesses can succeed at 20% margin. Depends on your efficiencies. Some people have higher input cost. Some people have their office in Victoria Island. Some people, their only office is just an umbrella outside their home, and they're providing similar services. And they have determined what would be fair to them as a margin. And so they should be able to sell their services at whatever those margins are. And to make sure that members cannot undercut each other, that's why you have associations that can discuss the standards of the service. If we're all going to provide services at a minimum standard, there's a minimum possible cost for that. And so you're not providing an inferior service and charging less to undercut those who provide a superior service. And so that's the position we took, and we escalated and said, we're issuing a cease and desist, and we don't want to be disruptive and interrupt small and medium-scale businesses, but understand that enforcing the law is not negotiable. We will continue to engage, but we would enforce the law. And I'm glad to say that I think this prudential approach to regulation has actually worked. I mean, because what we see is there seems to be some mutuality now. We are already in some level of communication with the association and actually looking forward to meeting now. And I recognize the point you made that the president has said that what they've issued is a guide. And yes, we did get communication from the association also seeking to explain what the situation is and drawing the attention of the Commission to what their own challenges are and seeking further engagement. I think that's brilliant, and we would pursue that and engage more. A guide to prices, it's tricky, but not necessarily illegal per se. Fixing prices is illegal per se. But if there is an industry where guidance is required, especially to prevent exploitation or arbitrariness, and so you're having something like a cap, in some circumstances that is understandable. For instance, in the electricity market, while we're trying to address the metering gap, there's an estimated billing process. And now there is an enforceable regulation that says there's going to be a cap to the bills you can send. That's absolutely legitimate and is not anti-competitive. And so a cap that is a product of work and some empirical analysis and evidence that is not arbitrary by itself may not necessarily violate competition principles. To the extent that that's what this is, we welcome it because it actually protects consumers. If this is what this conversation had been about, I'm sure that there would not be a dispute between the association, its members, and the regulators. At the end of the day, what is most important is that we're serving the same people. The association and its members want to provide their services to consumers, and we want to protect those
Exactly,
consumers.
Mr. Rukara. So I'm sure the people are happy, to hear that at least there's someone speaking for them, because I remember when the Lagos PRO of Amban was in the studio and reeled out those numbers. Even my colleagues here, I mean, everybody was like, how can we do that? But it's good that it's in the process, and it's good that the FCCPC is also recognizing the fact that they have their operational costs and they would need some adjustment. So even as you go, just briefly now, if any consumer has a problem, because I know it's not just about the POS that the FCCPC is concerned about, and they need to reach out to you, what would be the easiest way to lay a complaint and get swift response from the FCCPC?
The best person to complain to typically is somebody who provides the service. It's a systemic failure that makes people look first for the government to complain when they've bought something that they're dissatisfied with. But as far as that goes, while we're trying to scale up that mechanism across the board, complaining to the FCCPC is easiest if you do it online. We have a complaint portal that you can find on our website, but beyond that, there's an app that you can download, including from Play Store. That's an FCCPC app, and you can file your complaint electronically. We would respond. The vast majority of complaints that we resolve are complaints that are filed electronically. We also welcome people who walk into the offices, and then there are telephone numbers that we also receive complaints through. But by far, the electronic complaints they're the most efficient, and they're the ones where people have the most access to. Because if you have a telephone, a smartphone, then you can file your complaint from your telephone.
All right, thank you so much for the work you're doing, Mr. Babatunde Rukere, of course, for the FCCPC, the Executive Vice Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Federal Competition and Consumer Protection. The people appreciate you, and of course, they want your intervention in, especially the area of electricity. We just don't have the time. We would have delved into that, but today is not the day. I hope we'll invite you for that conversation soon. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thank you.